What is up, guys? Welcome back to OverTakes. This is Misfit, and today we're going to be starting our team previews for the 2021 Overwatch League season. Just around the corner, we got probably a month and a couple weeks. We're going to find out. I'm recording this Friday morning. It'll be up before BlizzCon, so at some point in the next couple days, we're going to find out when the actual start date of the season is. But we're about a month and a couple of weeks, maybe a month and a half away. So I figured let's start doing some team previews, start talking about teams, getting involved. I'm going to do 4 teams in an episode, just going down right in alphabetical order. Then we will do a full-on Asia and North American power ranking preseason. I like doing those. I think it's fun. A lot of people don't. I do it more for the fun factor than, look, I was right. Yeah, and it's fun to say you're right and you're wrong, and have to admit when you're wrong and all that stuff. But I just like doing it just so you get my take when we get into the season before the action starts happening, and you see where I was at mentally before, and we can talk about it and get your, I want to get your opinions and all that kind of stuff. But before we start, I'd like to thank everybody that's joining me. Everybody out there on YouTube, thank you very much for all of your support, all of the likes, subscribes. If you guys are new, please don't forget to hit the like button, the subscribe button. You can hit the alert bell too. I do Overwatch League content a couple times a week from now up until the beginning of the season. Then once the season starts, we're going to, hit you a couple times, 2-3 times a week, with news, match reviews, that kind of thing. So let's talk about today's episode. All right, this is how I kind of work this. So we're going to talk first 4 teams that we have. Like I said, going in alphabetical order, we're going to talk Atlanta, Boston, Chengdu, and Dallas. This is what I did. I kind of gave them an off-season grade as far as, who they lost versus who they picked up, or, in some cases, if they dumped a whole roster and picked up a bunch of guys, what their grade was. And then I'm going to give you my feelings on how I think that this is going to play out for each team, and a general spitball as to where I think they're going to finish, like, middle of the pack, towards the top, and that kind of thing. And then, of course, like I said, when we get closer to the season, probably a week or so away, before I start previewing the matches for that week, episode before that, we're going to do a full-on power ranking thing and start talking about that and where I actually have these teams placed. I haven't really done that yet. I'm going to be totally honest. I want to just kind of do it as I'm going through with you guys. I mean, I have a feeling of these teams and where they're going to be. And the more I talk about them and the more I read into the players, maybe watch a little bit here and there, I'll get a vibe as to where I'm going to stick them as far as rankings go. It gets really mucky, but it's still fun. So let's get to this. All right. First team on the docket, we have the Atlanta Reign. Okay, last year, the Reign, I felt they kind of underperformed, so they needed to make some changes, and they have. They had to adjust a couple situations, and I think they did. So their releases, they released Erster, Pogpo, Fire, and Dogman, who, retired, released, gone from last year's team. We'll just put it that way. And then they picked up Pelican and Kai, formerly KSP. So let's talk the grade that I gave Atlanta for their offseason. Initially, I gave them a C, but I'm going to upgrade it a little bit to a B- because they just picked up KSP. And I think that I think Pelican was a great pickup. I think he's going to be fantastic along with Edison. But they needed one more guy in there, and they grabbed him. Now, the reason why some of you might think it's so quote-unquote low of a grade is I just don't think that they upgraded enough. Now, I think what they have is solid. They have a solid team. I think Gator and Hawk are decent. They proved that last year. I think they're good. I don't think they're a great tank line. I don't think they're the best tank line. I think in certain metas and certain points, they are going to be way above average. But in general, I think they're just okay. Now, Lyris, I don't know too much about, so this is also part of the grade. I want to see, because Dogman, as much as I like him as a personality, he wasn't the greatest off-tank. Let's just be brutally honest with that. Masa, fantastic main support, but he didn't perform as good as he did in season 2 in 2019 as he did last year. Last year he was not as good. So, and we had Edison who performed really well. Now, Pelican I know is really good, and we all know that Kai's really good. So, I think that they could be a really, really decent middle of the pack kind of gatekeeper team to the teams above them, but not having any backups on the tank line really is kind of concerning to me. I don't necessarily think Gator and Hawk are bad, but I would like a couple other guys in there maybe to push them or for different metas, because they're really good at the brawly comps and that kind of stuff. When you're running your Rhine Sigmas and things like that, they're really good. But I think we get into some meh things if we're getting into Ball and we're getting into like Ball Hog or some of these other things that could potentially happen coming up with the metas, because we don't know what's going to happen, and damn well that it's not going to be on this patch. 2 months from now, they're gonna screw some hero to the point of overtuned, and we're gonna have that for a meta. We all know this happens every year, and it happens multiple times during a year, as we saw last year. But I don't think that they did enough. I think they made good, decent, solid signings. I think they'll be okay. I'm not as high on them this year as I was last year. Let's just put it that way. Last year I had them top 5. I believe I might even had them top 2. I right behind the Shock, I think I had them, or number 3, somewhere in there. I had them fairly high, but this year I just don't feel the same way about them. I feel they're average at best, somewhere in the middle of NA. I think they're going to win some games that they shouldn't. They'll do well in tournaments and things like that if and when they get a meta that plays out to what they are capable of. Their hero pools, like their strengths and that kind of thing. But yeah, we're going to go there for Atlanta, middle of the pack. B- though, with the late addition of Kai on the Atlanta main. All right, let's move on. Next team, we have the Boston Uprising, the perennial doormat for the last 2 years of the Overwatch League. Some say the Cleveland Browns, but the Browns are good. So maybe that's a sign for Boston, right? But they've been terrible. So they released Axiom, Jerry, Halo, and Mikey. Their additions, they did a good job. I don't think it's going to be the greatest thing, but here's what we got from them. They signed IM37, Stand 1, Soon, Faith, and Valentine. Not bad. Not great, but not bad. My feelings on Boston. I gave them a C. This is why. Now, this was also before Faith and Valentine. I know a lot of people are high on Valentine. I don't know too much about Valentine, to be honest. See all the other episodes where I say I'm not the biggest tier 2 watcher. What I do know is they sign guys that aren't terrible. They also sign guys that aren't great. I think with the guys that they kept, I was on the fence about a couple. I'm not the biggest Fusions fans outside of when he was playing Reinhardt in GOATs. I thought he was decent at that. Other than that, he's been up and down, and his other heroes leave a lot to be desired. He did improve some last year on a couple of them, but still, to me, he's just a Reinhardt. Not one trick, but Reinhardt's by far and away his best hero. Now, Stand 1, I think, is going to help. I think he obviously got outplayed by Fearless last year, but I think he's going to help out. I think he's going to be a good addition to that tank line. And also, like Fusion's, not great. Not bad, but serviceable. It's a serviceable player. Punk at off-tank. Kind of going the same direction with Punk. He's okay. He surprised me last year. I think he was one of the better pieces on this team. And, hopefully he improves some. And then on DPS, we have a couple of guys that have been around a bit. We have IM37, who was on Toronto. I'm kind of high on him. And this is why. I don't think he got a fair shot at DPS because he got stuck playing for Toronto in the middle of them switching out players and all that crap. In the 2019, during the GOATS meta, if you didn't play a good Brig or you didn't play a good Zarya, you were sunk. As far as a DPS player, you were, riding the bench, or, you lose your reputation as being a good player. And I think that kind of happened with them. So I'm expecting something decent from him. I think that's a great addition. Soon, one of my favorites of all time. I think he's great. He's been around the block a bit, and he's just a guy they need for this team as far as leadership, just a good, solid player. Kind of like what Houston did with Jake, I think. This is kind of a move, this screams that kind of a move to me. I think Soon is a great player. I think he's maybe seen a better day. I still think he's got some left in the tank on certain heroes and things like that. But a lot of it's leadership. You got a young team, and I think it's a decent pickup for them. I'm glad he found a landing spot too, because I think he deserved one. I think he's just a really good player. The biggest standout on this team is Bong, by far, on the support line. Hopefully, Faith is a good cohort with him on the support line. Don't know too much about him either, but I'm looking for more things out of this team than we've seen in the past couple of years. I think adding Baroi from Toronto was a great move. I think he's one of the guys that kept them together, and I think Laurie is going to be a good head coach as well. Mineral, you know my thoughts on Mineral if you've been around. I'm a Mayhem fan. I'm not the biggest fan of how he coaches. I think he's a great guy, but his coaching leaves a lot to be desired. I think this team is probably not in the... We can't cast them immediately in the bottom, I don't think. I don't think they're going to be like any kind of gatekeeper or anything that's higher than the lower mid-pack teams. I think they could surprise some people here and there. You never know. You might find a meta where they all click and you get something good going. And, it just works out really good for them. And they might, maybe place higher in a tournament than you think or something like that. I don't think they're going to be out there beating anybody by any stretch of the imagination. It's not the same old Boston, but I don't think it's that much different. I think it's definitely better. It's going to be watchable at least. And that's one of the things that, for me, at least it's watchable. Because sometimes I didn't even watch the Boston matches last year because I knew it was just going to be a curb stomp or just a shit show, unless they were playing Houston, which was a clown fiesta beyond all clown fiesta type scenario, and it was fun to watch for the wrong reasons. But yeah, I think Boston's going to be better. I gave them a C. I didn't really grade anybody horribly that we know of, except for the Valiant have an incomplete. That's the only thing we know. Yeah. So, so that's my take on Boston. Let's move on to Chengdu. Okay. Chengdu, they released some players, and some fan favorites. The problem with Chengdu is that the die that they cast in their first season, 2019, they seem to be stuck in it. Where they got stuck in it by playing ball in the middle of the GOATS meta and just kind of not caring because they didn't have a main tank and all that whole story. And, they're the lovable losers and everybody loves them. They like watching them play because they play like people doing quick play or whatever. It's fantastic and it was great. Last year, I was down on them for the main reason being that they were hard stuck in this thing. The fun wore off for me. It was just... they weren't good. At a certain point, you have to play the meta or somewhere in that range, or you're going to get rolled. And I think at the end of last year, they did we have to be able to play what these guys play, even though our best situation is playing, ball and kind of running that sort of thing, that fun stuff, which it plays in their favor right now, but who knows what's going to happen in a month. It's Overwatch, so we could get... They're gearing up for the season, so you could see Orisa and Winston and Reinhardt getting massive buffs and, leaving Ball out to dry. It seems about the norm at the start of every season, where Ball is pretty strong outside, and then all of a sudden, they buffed Orisa through the fucking roof, and now you can do so much with her that nobody wants to play anything else but that. Hopefully we don't get that this year. This is who they released. They released Ating, Bacon Jack, Keo, and Langsa. And then they had a couple of weird things where they put Yevitol and a couple other guys, I kind of said it's like keeping if you quit smoking, it's kind of like keeping the cigarette pack in the drawer. You have a couple of the guys from the old days on your academy team, so, if and when you want to go back to wacky Chengdu fun, you can, and that's Late Young and Yevitol. They're on their academy team. Oh, and I forgot that they did release Molly as well. Let's talk about Chengdu here. I don't know a ton about their players. Now, the new ones that they picked up. Okay, they signed Gaga, Farway, 1987, Nisha, Kaneki, Jimmy. That's where we're at with their lineup right now. I know Gaga is good, like real good. That is one thing I know. I'm not 100% certain on the other guys, but there have been reports saying that Gaga is better than Ameng on ball, and that's hard for me to believe. But I have seen him play ball, and I don't know. It's pretty close. But that being said, he's good on the other tanks as well, and that is exactly what this team needs. They need that. Faraway Kaneki and Jimmy are decent upgrades. They needed a little bit more versatility back there. They kept Jinmu. Bacon Jack was okay. Nothing to write home about. I think they got some great players in there, but they do have Leave and Jinmu, which is going to be, I think, your staples. Leave was okay last year, but I don't think he didn't have the best season, but he wasn't terrible. It's just some of the stuff that was being played by them. When you get into some of these metas that Chengdu themselves are running, I think it didn't fit his playstyle. I think they're getting more into a regular, quote-unquote, Overwatch type playstyle. But like I said, ball is in play, so who knows? And then we have, the Echo and Tracer thing going on. But that's a month down the road. Could change, and then we could have some different opinions here. But yeah, I gave them I forgot to tell you what I graded them. I graded them a C. Because I don't know half these players, so I'm holding back judgment. I know Gaga's really good, and I think it's an upgrade over Ameng, or at least a good partner for Ameng to sub in and out with on the main tank role. I see them in APAC. Yeah, there's only 7 teams, so like you can only go so far up and down. I want to put them somewhere. I'm going anywhere from 4. Or 3 to 5, I think they could do. I am a little high on them because I have checked out some stuff, and I kind of think this could work. I gave him such a low grade because I don't really know too much about the Chinese Overwatch scene or contender scene. So we're gonna put him at C. Not sending a note home with the parents, that kind of thing with the grade, but it's a flat C. And then yeah, like I said, they could finish anywhere 3 to 5. I don't think they're going to bottom out and finish like below where I'm assuming the Valiant are going to be, because yeah, to me they're the bottom dweller in there, and we'll get to them later. Like I said, we'll talk about the Valiant later. I think their ability to run normal comps is going to help them out a lot, Chengdu. So that's Chengdu. All right, so the final team for this episode that we're going to talk about is the one that just totally blew everything up, and they needed to. That's the Dallas Fuel. So Dallas, okay. We all know Dallas. We all know Dallas's issues since the league started. They always go in with high potential and just crash and burn. So here we are again. Except this time, Lastro went out and made sure he got himself a good team. As I've said in the past, this is the first time I said this. This is the first rodeo for this team, but I think that this team is going to be exceptional. So released, they just blew it up. They got rid of all the guys playing Valorant that they were paying to play Valorant on an Overwatch League team. They got rid of AKM, Onigod, Crimzo, Unko, Gamsu, AKM, I said AKM, Closer, Note, and Paintbrush. Crimzo. They blew the whole thing up. In return, they picked up Eggsy, Fielder, Sparkle, Hanbin, Jexay, Rappel, and Fearless. So, I gave them an A. Just because on Sparkle, to me, Sparkle, Hanbin alone, and basically the guys that were on Paris, picking those guys up, Eggsy, Fielder, Sparkle, Those three guys right there are fantastic. And Handman as well. I just love this roster. I love the way it looks. I think they're going to be fantastic. I think they're top 3 easily. There's not much to say. Last year was a debacle of beyond Dallas proportions, in my opinion. They should have finished in some of those tournaments. There's a couple they could have won. I just think it's a fantastic move on his part. The reunited guys, they all have synergy somewhat. Yeah, they haven't played together a lot lately, but they've played with each other. Most of them have played with each other in some way, shape, form, or fashion, and I think it's going to work out really good. I really can't say anything bad right now. I'm not reserving my judgment for this team. I'm expecting them to compete for tournament wins in NA. Not, finish in, they could make it to the semis, that would be great. That would be fantastic. Be a good boost for their morale. I'm expecting this team to be duking it out with the Shock, potentially Florida, potentially Washington, or the Gladiators. I'm just throwing names out there because I don't want to reveal any of my secrets. What I have. No, I'm joking, guys. But I think that they should be in that conversation as to when we get to the tournament, the monthly tournament. Are they the number 1 seed, number 2 seed? If they're not in those positions, I'm going to be disappointed. There's going to be metas where potentially a Houston can come up out of nowhere, or maybe Boston or whatever, or something like that. But this team should consistently finish in the top of these tournaments. Whether they beat the Shock or not, that's, neither here nor there. We know the Shock are going to be great. They've lost some pieces, and we're not, 100% on them being the best yet either. But Dallas right now, and to use a sports cliche, they control their own destiny. If they go out there and do what they did, some of these guys did with Paris, with the additions and the other guys that they have on here, like Fearless, at main tank, and so on. You have Jexay and Repel, and just guys all over the place that you can fill in. You're going to be fantastic. In fact, that's one of my favorite parts about this team. The DPS is ungodly, but one of my favorite parts is just seeing how Jexay and Fielder work together. I'm assuming Jexay is going to play most of the time with sub-ins with Repel, kind of like when he was with Houston. But yeah, this team has so much potential, so much going for it, so much of just a gigantic hero pool with these guys. You have your bases covered with metas. There's not a point where I'm going to go, I'm worried about this meta because X is being played or Y is being played. You have so many different guys in here that can do so many different things that there is no reason for them not to finish very high. So that's why I give them an A. And power rankings, we'll see where they get placed as far as my mind goes in NA. But yeah, that is my take on Dallas Fuel. All right, guys, that is going to do it for the first of our team previews. We went over the Atlanta Reign, the Boston Uprising, the Chengdu Hunters, and the Dallas Fuel. We get, you got my opinions and feelings on those teams to start with. So that's going to do it for this one. Next episode, we're going to hit up the next batch of 4, which is going to be Florida, Hangzhou, Guangzhou, and Houston. Guangzhou and Hangzhou flipped around because, alphabet things. And apparently I forgot what the alphabet was there. But anyway, we're going to hit those teams in the next episode. Thanks a lot for joining me. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. Everybody out there in YouTube land, thank you for all of your support, all of the likes, subscribes, all that kind of stuff. Please comment down below on what you think on my grades on the team. Let's start talking about teams, guys. Let's get this rolling, get this conversation going. This is Misfit. I will talk to you. Probably we'll do something after BlizzCon, wrap some of that stuff up, talk about what happened there, and then we'll continue with the team previews. I didn't forget about BlizzCon, but I'm probably going to throw something in there separate just so we can keep the team previews to themselves and keep that conversation in a different pod. All right. Thanks a lot. This is Misfit. I'm out. Everybody out there, stay safe. Have a great rest of your day. Enjoy BlizzCon. And we'll talk to you on the next one.